It had been a long day, the clock striking midnight as I finally hit the road. The route home was a familiar one, a winding stretch of highway that cut through dense forests, only the moon and my headlights illuminating the path. My car, a reliable old sedan, hummed softly as I drove, the silence of the night enveloping me like a thick blanket. The road was empty, as expected for this time. I found myself relaxing into the drive, the earlier stress of the day slowly melting away with each mile. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a sharp static noise erupted from the radio. Startled, I fumbled to turn it off, but before I could, an eerie voice cut through the static. Turn back, it whispered, barely audible over the static before it returned to silence. I shook my head, convincing myself it was just a figment of my imagination, a byproduct of fatigue. Miles passed, and the eerie incident was almost forgotten when I noticed a figure on the side of the road. It was a woman, dressed in a tattered white gown, her hair a wild tangle. As I slowed down, her eyes met mine, piercing and intense. She pointed down the road, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. My heart raced, the atmosphere thick with a sudden, unexplainable dread. Ignoring every instinct, I accelerated, leaving the figure behind. The trees seemed to close in around me, the shadows more menacing. My headlights flickered, casting dancing shadows that seemed to twist into grotesque shapes. I told myself it was just my imagination, but the unsettling feeling grew stronger with every passing mile. The road curved sharply, and as I navigated the bend, my headlights illuminated another figure, this one standing directly in the middle of the road. It was a man, his face gaunt, eyes hollow. I slammed on the brakes, heart hammering in my chest. The car stopped just inches from him. He stared into my eyes, his lips moving in a silent curse or perhaps a warning. Before I could react, he vanished, as if swallowed by the night itself. I sat there, breathing heavily, trying to process what had just happened. My mind raced, thoughts jumbled and chaotic. With trembling hands, I restarted the car, the engine sputtering to life with a reluctant groan. As I continued, the radio flickered back on by itself, the static loud and jarring. Then, the same eerie voice as before, whispering, "They're watching." I glanced in the rearview mirror, my breath catching in my throat as I saw multiple figures standing in the road behind me, all staring, unblinking, at my retreating car. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, the forest more oppressive than ever. My headlights flickered again, this time going out completely for a few heart-stopping seconds. When they flickered back on, there was a child standing directly in front of the car. I swerved, narrowly avoiding him, my heart in my throat as I fought to regain control of the vehicle. The child turned, his eyes hollow like the man's, and pointed to a narrow, unmarked path that branched off the main road. Despite my fear, curiosity pulled me toward the path. I turned onto it, the trees now so close they scratched against the car's sides. The path was rough, uneven, and barely visible, but something compelled me to continue. As I drove deeper into the forest, the temperature dropped, and a thick fog began to roll in, enveloping the car. Visibility was near zero, and the atmosphere was charged with a palpable sense of dread. The radio burst to life again, a cacophony of voices screaming, crying out in terror and pain. I tried to turn it off, but it was no use. The voices grew louder, more desperate. Suddenly, the fog cleared, and I found myself at a clearing. There, in the center, was an old, dilapidated house, its windows dark, the structure seemingly abandoned. The car stopped on its own, the engine dying as the last whispers from the radio faded into silence. I sat there, frozen, staring at the house. The air was thick with the stench of decay and something unspoken, an ancient sorrow that permeated the very ground. I knew I should turn the car around, leave this cursed place, but my body wouldn't obey. A deep, inexplicable force drew me toward the house, each step heavier than the last. As I approached the porch, the front door creaked open on its own, inviting or perhaps daring me to enter. I stood at the threshold, the darkness within promising answers or perhaps only more questions. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside, the door groaning shut behind me. The darkness was oppressive, thicker than mere absence of light. My hands fumbled for a flashlight in my pocket, the beam of light slicing through the gloom when I finally clicked it on. The inside of the house was as dilapidated as the outside, with peeling wallpaper and a thick layer of dust covering everything. The air was cold, unnaturally so, and I shivered, wrapping my arms around myself. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed photographs on the walls. They were old, faded by time, and as I drew closer, a chill ran down my spine. The people in the photos, their eyes seemed to follow me, filled with sorrow and dark warning. Whispers filled the room, soft and fleeting. "Leave, leave while you can," they seemed to say, but I was drawn deeper into the house. The hallway stretched before me, lined with more photographs and dimly lit by the flickering light from my flashlight. The floorboards creaked under my feet, the sound unnervingly loud in the silent house. As I progressed, the air grew colder, the whispers louder. Shadows moved just at the edge of my vision, flitting away whenever I tried to look directly at them. I reached a door at the end of the hallway, the wood swollen with age and damp. Pushing it open required effort, the rusty hinges screaming in protest. The room beyond was a library, shelves of books coated in dust. A heavy, musty smell filled the air, the scent of paper long gone stale. As I entered, a sudden movement caught my eye, a shadow darting behind a bookshelf. My heart skipped a beat, and I paused, listening. A soft sobbing broke the stillness, the sound mournful and full of despair. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. The sobbing stopped abruptly, and silence descended once again. I moved closer to where I had seen the shadow, my flashlight beam trembling as my hand shook. Suddenly, a book fell from a shelf to the floor with a loud thump. I jumped back, heart racing, as the pages fluttered open. The book was old, its pages yellowed with age. I bent down, curiosity overcoming fear, and read the title, Histories of the Unseen. The page it had opened spoke of spirits bound to the earth, their unfinished business keeping them tethered to certain places. As I read, the temperature dropped further, my breath visible in the air. A cold hand touched my shoulder, and I spun around, flashlight swinging wildly. There was nothing there but the empty room and the shelves of books. Yet, the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. I turned back to the book, and the pages began to turn on their own, stopping on a chapter titled Apparitions of the Heartbroken. The words blurred before my eyes, and when I looked up, the room had changed. The books were no longer dusty but new, their spines uncracked. The air was warmer, and the light brighter. I was no longer alone. A figure stood at the far end of the room, her back to me, dressed in a flowing gown. I approached her cautiously. "Hello?" I asked, my voice echoing slightly in the transformed space. She turned slowly, her face hidden by a veil. "You should not have come here," she said, her voice a whisper, yet it filled the room with an urgent intensity. "Why?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. She lifted her veil, revealing a face pale and beautiful, yet sad. "This place is cursed," she said, her eyes sorrowful. "Those who enter do not leave the same." I felt a pull in my chest, a tug of sympathy and fear mingled together. "What happened here?" I pressed, needing to understand. She floated closer, her feet barely touching the ground. "This house holds a sorrow that has soaked into the walls, the ground, the very air. It corrupts, it consumes, it does not forget." I swallowed hard, the flashlight in my hand now unnecessary as the room was bathed in a soft, otherworldly glow. She was right before me now, so close I could see the tears glistening in her eyes. "What can I do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "There is little to be done," she replied. "But to understand, to see, that is a beginning." She gestured to the book on the floor. "Read, learn, beware." I nodded, turning to pick up the book. When I looked up again, she was gone, the room once again old and dusty, the warmth replaced by chilling cold. I clutched the book to my chest, a lifeline in this bewildering, haunted place. I knew I needed to keep moving, to explore further, to uncover the truths hidden in this desolate, cursed house. I left the library, the book under my arm, and continued down another corridor. The whispers returned, louder now, a cacophony of voices pleading, warning, crying. Each step forward was a battle against the dread that clawed at my insides, the fear that perhaps I was walking deeper into a trap from which there was no escape. But I couldn't turn back. The house wouldn't let me, and my own resolve pushed me onward. Each room held new horrors, new sadness, a story etched into the very fabric of the place. And the night grew deeper, the darkness more consuming, as I delved into the heart of the haunted, hoping for answers, dreading what I might find. As I ventured deeper into the heart of the haunted house, each step felt heavier, the shadows more menacing. My flashlight's beam seemed weaker, barely piercing the darkness that had thickened like fog. The air was cold, so cold that each breath I took felt like inhaling ice, chilling me to the bone. Turning a corner, I entered what appeared to be an old dining room, its grand table covered with a thick layer of dust and cobwebs. Chairs were upturned, and a grand chandelier hung precariously from the ceiling, swaying slightly as if disturbed by my presence. The wallpaper, once vibrant and elegant, was now peeling, revealing the rotting wood beneath. A sudden noise to my left made me jump, my heart racing. It was a soft thumping sound, like something being dragged across the floor. I shined my flashlight toward the sound, but there was nothing there. As I turned back, a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing my flashlight, plunging me into darkness. Panic set in as I frantically clicked the flashlight, trying to bring back the light. It flickered, then steadied, revealing the room once more. The chandelier was now still, the silence oppressive. Then, a voice, soft and melodious, broke the silence, singing a lullaby that was haunting in its beauty. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice echoing off the walls. No answer came, but the singing continued, now sounding like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once. I followed the sound, drawn to it against my better judgment. It led me to a small door hidden behind a tattered curtain. The door creaked open at my touch, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward. The singing was clearer now, urging me on. Descending the stairs, the air grew even colder, the walls seeming to close in around me. At the bottom, I found myself in what looked like a cellar, the air musty and damp. The singing stopped abruptly as I entered, replaced by a thick silence that seemed to weigh on my ears. I shined the flashlight around, revealing rows of old wine bottles and dusty shelves. Then, the light caught something in the far corner of the cellar, a small figure, huddled against the wall. As I approached, the figure turned, revealing a child, his eyes wide with fear. "They won't let you leave," he whispered, his voice trembling. "They never do." "Who won't let me leave?" I asked, kneeling beside him. "The ones who are lost," he replied, pointing to the shadows. "The ones like her." Before I could ask him who her was, the temperature dropped sharply. I turned to see a woman materializing in the shadows, her appearance ghostly. She was dressed in a flowing gown, her hair long and wild, her eyes hollow with despair. "You are trapped," she said, her voice echoing in the cold air. "Just as we are." "Why? What happened here?" I asked, the book still clutched tightly under my arm. She floated closer, her form flickering like a candle flame in the wind. "This house, it feeds on sorrow, on fear. It draws in the lost, the broken," she explained, her voice sad. "And it will not let go until it consumes everything." A shiver ran down my spine as I absorbed her words. "How can I stop it?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. She pointed to the book I held. "Find the heart of the house," she instructed. "Bind the sorrow with the knowledge you hold. Only then can the lost be freed." I nodded, understanding the task before me. Standing, I helped the child to his feet. "Will you show me?" I asked him. He nodded silently, taking my hand. We left the cellar together, heading back up the stairs. The house seemed to watch us as we moved, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. As we ascended, the shadows seemed to whisper, voices melding into a cacophony that was both warning and welcome. We traversed back through the dining room, now noticing that the chandelier swayed with a rhythm like a pendulum, the shadows dancing around us. The child led me through the maze of hallways, each turn and twist taking us deeper into the core of the house. The air grew thicker, the feeling of dread intensifying. Finally, we reached a door unlike any other in the house. It was large, made of solid oak with carvings that seemed to shift and move as I looked at them. The child stopped, releasing my hand. "Beyond here," he whispered. I reached out, touching the cold wood, the carvings vibrating under my fingertips. I took a deep breath, readying myself for what was to come. With a push, the door began to open, creaking loudly in the silent house. The darkness beyond was impenetrable, a void that seemed to call my name. Stepping forward, I prepared to face whatever lay within, the book clutched tightly as my only shield against the consuming darkness of the house. As the heavy door swung open, a rush of icy air met me, sending chills down my spine. I stepped into the darkness, the void so absolute that even my flashlight seemed swallowed by it. I couldn't see, couldn't hear anything but my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. "Follow my voice," the child whispered from somewhere ahead, his tone eerily calm in the enveloping blackness. I moved forward cautiously, guided by his soft words. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, the floor beneath my feet creaking ominously with every weight I shifted. Suddenly, the ground beneath my feet changed, from hard, cold floor to something softer, more yielding. I shone the flashlight downward and gasped. The floor was carpeted with a thick layer of decaying leaves and dirt, as if the forest outside had crept into the house, reclaiming this piece of its heart. The air grew heavier, suffused with the earthy smell of rot and mold. Whispering voices filled the space around me, their words unintelligible but their tones desperate and pleading. The child's voice became my anchor in that sea of murmurs. "Almost there," he urged. We reached what felt like the center of the room. The child stopped, and I could just make out his silhouette against the slightly lighter darkness of a large window. This was it, the heart of the house. I could feel it pulsing around me, the sorrow, the fear. It was palpable, almost living. Taking the old book from under my arm, I opened it to the page marked by the woman in the cellar. The text shimmered under the beam of my flashlight, ancient symbols and scripts dancing before my eyes. I began to read aloud, the words sounding strange and powerful as they echoed through the room. As I spoke, the wind inside the room picked up, howling like the cries of the lost souls bound to the house. Shadows twisted and spun around me, forming images of despairing faces and twisted bodies. I continued to read, my voice growing stronger, more confident with each word of the ancient text. The house shook, the foundations groaning as if in pain. The whispering voices grew louder, angrier, but I did not stop. I read until the words ran out, the last syllable hanging in the air like a final verdict. Silence fell. The wind died down, and the shadows dissipated, leaving only the faint light from the window illuminating the room. I looked around, breathing heavily, the book still open in my hands. It felt lighter now, as if a weight had been lifted from its pages. The child's hand found mine in the darkness. "It's done," he said, a note of relief in his voice. "Is it over?" I asked, unsure, my heart still racing. It is, he confirmed. You've freed them. Freed us. The air felt cleaner, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. I followed the child back through the house, noticing the subtle changes. The walls were no longer damp and rotting but showed signs of old grandeur. The photographs on the walls depicted smiling faces, no longer twisted by sorrow. We reached the front door, and I hesitated, looking back at the house that had been a prison for so many. It was just a house now, its halls quiet and peaceful. Thank you, the child said, his voice fading as he stepped away, disappearing like mist in the morning sun. I stepped outside, the dawn breaking over the horizon. The sun painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, a new day beginning. As I drove away, the house faded into the background, just another part of the landscape. I couldn't explain what had happened, whether it had been real or the product of my imagination. But as I left, I felt a sense of completion, a story ended. The lost were found, the bound were freed, and the house at the end of the road was just a house once more. And as the distance grew, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in a long time. The road ahead was clear, and for the first time in a long while, I looked forward to seeing where it would lead.